Well, obviously the last one didn't go exactly how you might have hoped, so kind of a crazy one. What lessons do you take out of an experience like that?
Wear goggles inside the fight. No, like you said, it was definitely an unfortunate event, and it was crazy how it happened. But like, I still gained a lot from that. You know, showing the UFC I'm willing to step up on 3-week notice, take a main event fight, not afraid to go 5 rounds, not afraid to fight somebody that's top 5, top 3. So it's like, there's positives, and then there's definitely a lot of negatives. But me, I gotta always look on the brighter side.
Yeah, I know you kind of campaigned wanting the rematch to run it back, and of course that didn't happen. Now you guys are on the same card. I mean, is there a little something personal there? I mean, do you take some offense to the fact that he's fighting somebody else?
Yeah, you know, it's one of those where there's a little salt on my shoulders right now, but it's all good. It's like, for me, I got to get past Damian Maia. I don't want to get distracted with Leon and then wait in the back and give Leon a 3-piece and a soda. Then maybe that'll give him my rematch.
It's a good plan. What did you think when they gave you Maia? I know it wasn't the fight that you were looking for, but obviously a legend in the sport. So what do you think when they matched you up?
I was actually very excited for it because it was one of those fights I actually called for too. If I knew that I was going to get the Leon fight, because he's still a huge name, a great name, big name, and he's a legend, respected by all fighters. And to have a guy like that on my resume before he retires is going to be great. And like, literally, you know, you have a million people, oh, he's 42, yada, yada, end of his career, but he's literally 3-1 out of his last 4, and he literally almost beat Gilbert Burns. He had him in a bad spot, mounted him, took his back, so it's like, he's still dangerous, so I'm not looking past him.
How do you get ready for a specialist like that, right? A guy that's so good in one area. Like, I've heard people say, you know, well, you got to drill jiu-jitsu every day, and I've heard other people say, I'm not going to get as good in jiu-jitsu in 6 weeks as that guy is, so what's the point? So how do you prep for a specialist like that?
For me, it was like being very smart, putting on the gi, jumping guard a lot, doing a lot of flying triangles. No, I'm kidding. Like you said, I'm not going to learn all that jiu-jitsu in one day, one camp, so it's like I didn't focus on that. I looked at the other things. You know, he's 43 years old. My training coach is 42 years old and is PFL middleweight champion. So, like, you know, I'm fighting a guy with that type of age. So I know what a guy that old feels like. So Lewis Taylor, I got him back there with me. So I got everything I need with him.
Nice. He was here earlier, and he said, look, this might be his last fight. You know, he hopes to do one more, but if it doesn't go his way, it could be it. I mean, would there be anything special, I guess, or would it be almost bittersweet, like being the guy that, you know, destroyed the legend, I guess, and ended his career?
You know, honestly, it's an honor to fight him and have him on there. And like, when I do beat him and he does retire, like, I'd rather have that than him lose 5 or 6 in a row, and then you're looking at him like it tarnishes like your legacy type thing. And I feel like he's held to a high standard right now because he was that guy that didn't change his game. He knew what he was good at. He did jiu-jitsu and he stuck with it. And he won a lot of fights where they fought for the title twice. So that's a different type of respect. He didn't have to change his game or, oh, I'm going to go to this gym or that gym or try to learn cartwheel kicks or anything like that. He knew what he was good at, and he stuck with it, and he won with it.
Nice. Last thing for me, I mean, this would be a big win, obviously a very recognizable name. So where do you go from here? I mean, do you have your targets or anything? Do you keep chasing Leon? I mean, does he need to be careful with the 3-piece and the soda?
I'm going to be rooting for Nate Diaz, you know, because obviously if Nate Diaz wins, then definitely the Leon Edwards fight makes sense. So I'm going to be Nate Diaz's army. Hopefully he wins that fight. Otherwise, you know, I want to look for somebody definitely top 5. I don't want to look past Maia, but it's like when you beat a guy like that, you deserve a number 1 contender fight or guys that are in that title picture.
Well, right here. You like in February after your win, you were calling out Li Jinliang saying like, it doesn't make sense for me to call out these big names because I'm I think your phrasing was high risk, low reward for a lot of these fighters. Now you're getting Damian Maia, someone, as you said, future Hall of Famer and all of that. So do you think that is a direct reason you got this fight because you are willing to step on short notice against Leon Edwards? Yeah,
definitely. Like you said, like I called for Li Jingliang because I'm sitting there, man, I won 8 of my last 9 fights. They haven't given me a ranked opponent. All these guys are saying no, and I'm like, what the heck? What do I need to do? Then I was like, me and my coach were literally talking. We're like, dude, we have to be ready to step up because that's the only way that these guys can't say no is if it's a week notice fight. They already had a full camp, so they have to say yeah. So then we figured it would be that way, and I'm glad like the UFC respected that enough to give me a bigger name than Li Jinliang. And then so I still skipped a couple of rungs on that ladder to the top.
Is that still going to be your mindset moving forward? Because like I think Kevin Holland even said at one point, like the higher you get ranked, the less short notice fights you're going to be able to take, or you're the less active you're going to be. And I like to be active. So the higher you get ranked, are you still going to try to stay ready for these short notice fights? Because still in that top 5, no one's really fighting each other at this point in the welterweight division.
Yeah, it's like one of those things. Like guys like Holland shouldn't be taking short notice fights because he sucks in wrestling. Me, I'm good everywhere, so I could compete with any of these guys, top 5 to top 3 in any aspect of martial arts. So like, I'm not gonna be afraid to take a short notice fight like that because I know I can compete with these guys anywhere, and I'm always in shape and I'm always ready. So like, I'd rather take a short notice fight because I mean, like you said, it's like there's less nerves with it. You're not sitting there studying this guy for 8 weeks, dieting hard, sitting there being annoying and being hangry all the time. So it's like, all right, I just got to do that for 1 week. Cool, let's do it.
And we can't have you up here without bringing it up. A lot's going on overseas. I think you're probably the kind of the face of in the UFC for like speaking out about what's happening in Palestine and everything. So has that been a distraction at all to you with people approaching you, or even your mindset being on what's going on over there?
It's one of those things where it's like you literally get depressed just going on social media because you see it, and that's where you get the real news is from social media nowadays. But for me, it motivates me because it shows me that I'm fighting for something more, knowing that those people are looking up to me and knowing that like a win for me is a win for them. So I just want to give these people something to cheer about, something to be happy about, whether it's for 1 day or 1 week, that I know that my win is their win.
Belal, right here. Just a question about your mindset in terms of preparation and having to take that long road. All these fights you're winning and waiting for a ranked opponent. Then you finally get Leon and that happens. How is it mentally for you to stay focused and stay ready to keep striving to be at the top, knowing that maybe some things aren't going your way luck-wise along the way?
For me, just enjoying the journey and enjoying the process, knowing that like everything's already written for me. Like I'm a very religious guy, so like I know that God's plan is greater than my plan, and I know that sometimes the longer road is the better road for you to take because you go through the ups and downs, and then once I get to the top, it's gonna mean a lot more to me, knowing that I went through all of this, all that, and then once I get that belt around my waist, it's gonna be worth it.
Does it make it easier almost? I mean, when you finally get there and you get fights like this against a legend like Maia, who's been fighting champions and #1 contenders, does it make it easier almost, your mindset, when you get here to just be ready? Because you've been waiting that long, and then when finally the door opens, it's charge right through there. Yeah,
exactly. Now it's time for me to prove it. A big thing, it was like, you don't want to go in there. Obviously, I respect Damian Maia. He's a legend. So, but like, I don't want to go in there, oh my God, I'm fighting Damian Maia. Like, I belong with these guys. So it should be one of those things like, Muhammad's fighting Maia. It's not like, oh man, he's fighting a legend of Damian Maia. I'm going to be a legend myself, so I'm ready for it.
And a big crowd, the biggest and best fight card they've ever seen in Arizona. I know you're excited to be a part of that.
Yeah, I can't wait for that energy, man. It's going to be a different type of energy. I'm already getting used to it again, fans waiting outside looking for you just to sign an autograph or something like that. And it makes fight week real again. It's showing us that we're getting back to normal.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Belal, we're here. Well, say that this is your moment. You feel like this is your time because you got a certain swag and confidence all at the same time. Like, this your time to let everybody know what we've kind of seen with you getting all these wins, that you have a chance to get that belt one day?
Yeah, I always got swag. But like you said, now people are starting to just realize it. They're starting to see it now. I feel like it's kind of like with Masvidal, where he's always been the same person. He's always fought the same way. Like, he was always that guy that, the real diehards knew who he was and things like that. But then all of a sudden when the UFC started realizing, oh, this guy got a personality, this guy is promotable, then now he's one of the biggest stars. And I feel like that's what I'm going to be.
So you got the confidence, you get your hand raised on Saturday night. Are you going to get on that mic and call straight for Leon? Or are you going to get on that mic and pull something that we only see coming? Can you give us a preview of that?
You don't know. Maybe I'm an analyst now, so maybe I'll go back there, be on the desk, and call Leon's fight. So I got a lot of plans up my sleeve right now for Saturday night.
I can tell. And give some insight to the 7 days out that you did with Will Harris of Anatomy of a Fighter, because from a human aspect, it gives us the insight of you as a person and your religion, being a Muslim. How beneficial has that been, or kind of refreshing to have that positive spin so people can know who the real Belal Muhammad is personally in and outside the cage?
Yeah, honestly, Will Harris does like an amazing job of like really telling your story. Not telling you not faking anything, not telling you to, stand like this or do this for me real quick. He just literally tells the story in such a beautiful way where fans understand it, and it doesn't have to be in like a conflict of a way, where like I'm trying to show that I'm better than somebody or my way's right or your way's wrong. He just explains it. He gives you the info, and you can take it whichever way you want it. And I'm just glad that people who watched it, they've all loved it. It's all been positive. And for me, it's an amazing thing too, because it's informing people of what's happening in my country and like what's going on with me as a person and my religion, and showing you that we are real human beings, we are real people, and like fighters in general, we're not all crazy, we're not this, we're not that, we're not angry people, and it just like it shows you we're more down to earth. And that's why I love the way Will Harris does it, because he just shows you the real life, real side of fighting.
And do you feel any extra responsibility being like kind of like the voted-in face of Muslimism in the MMA world? Because it's not really talked about at all. It's kind of like taboo, in fact.
I mean, you know, I think Habib did a really good job of bringing the Muslim culture into it and showing you guys what our culture means, and about like respect and discipline, and how like even after his speeches where like respect your parents, like that's not like that. Everybody should respect their parents. It doesn't have to be a Muslim thing, but it just shows that like we don't have all these crazy rules or anything like that. Like you need to do this, this, and this. Like it's just showing you that a lot of these Muslims are just normal, just like you and me, and we just do certain things a certain way. But 90% of the things we do is just being a good person.
And if you brush up against Leon, are you gonna get out of character, or you got this not a Leon week? But if you see him, or you got something to say to him, y'all come pass each other in the bowels of the hotel or whatever, or it's like I'll see you when I see you.
Nah, I already saw him. I tried to poke him, but he ran away. But nah, I'm messing around. That's what I got my dude Lewis Taylor with me for. He's the one who hands as a side business if anybody tries to get jumpy with me. That's what he's here for. But no, like I said, we're professionals. I'm a professional. I'm not going to sit there and try to start a fight with somebody out of it. I don't get paid for it, so it ain't worth it for me to do something like that. But for me, I know that I got to get past Maia. For me to get to Leon, I know who I got to get past and what I need to do to get there.
And final question for me: do you have to have a dominant win over Damian on Sunday, or is it just getting your hand raised since he's so tricky on the ground, and we all know he could be losing a fight and climb your back like a tree and get you out of there? So it's about just getting the hand raised or putting on a show and have a dominant performance.
It's about being smart in there, not being stupid, not getting overzealous with him, because that's what he waits for. He waits for mistakes, and with his style, he's not the most explosive, he's not the fastest. But he's like a boa constrictor where he just gets a hold of you. Once he gets a hold of you, you start panicking a little bit. That's when he takes advantage of it. So for me, it's just being smart and knowing that I'm going to have to put him to sleep if I want to finish this fight. He's not one of those guys just going to fold or break. Like he's gone 5-round fights with the world's best. So I got to go out there. I got to put on a show. And I got to show the world that, yo, this guy's a contender. Like people are talking about Usman fighting going up to middleweight and things like that. But now there's still some names at 170 that he needs to beat first. And I feel like I want to be one of those guys.
Belal, back here. Bill, over here. Despite the last fight, you're on a fantastic run right now. So I'm just curious, is there somewhere you would say that was a turning point maybe to what led you to the great run you're on now?
Not really. It's just staying the course. I don't want to overdo it, overthink it. That was my biggest thing, is always overthinking. Oh, I need to do this, or I need to do that. Maybe I should train with this guy, or maybe I should bring in this guy or that guy. I got a good core of people around me, and they've been with me for so long that they know where I was and how I grow each time. And even after wins, my coach literally the first thing he's telling me, oh, you should have did this, this, and this. Like we're working on fixing our faults, not celebrating the win too much, because we know we want to be the best in the world. And to be the best in the world, you have to keep evolving and keep getting better. And I feel like that's what I'm doing now, is always looking to improve no matter what. Not getting comfortable, why I won this many fights, so I'm doing the right thing. So let me make weight and I'll be fine.
So do you believe that MMA is more of a mental sport than physical, you'd say?
Yeah, I think it's literally 90% mental. Because I can see too, you see guys nowadays with the calf kick a lot of the time too. It's like, are you going to be tough enough to walk through it, or are you going to fold like a McGregor or somebody like that, because you're sleeping in silk sheets? So it's like, for me, you got to be mentally strong, and you got to be prepared for everything in there. And to have that mentality, you have to train that every day as well.
All right, thanks, Belal. Good luck.
Belal, over here. This way. How excited are your friends or family that finally they can come and see you? I know they went to Las Vegas, even though they couldn't get into the Apex and see you.
It's amazing. You know, like I said, they would literally come down to Vegas just for Saturday, just to eat dinner with me afterward. So it's going to be amazing. That's going to finally going to be in the crowd. And this is going to be the first fight my dad's ever gone to of mine. Never went to any of my fights before. So it's going to be amazing to have him in the crowd.
I know you've been really close with Horatio Gutierrez. How helpful he's been in your preparation for these couple of fights?
Honestly, Horacio's been like a big key in all my camps. And like literally like an amazing coach, but also like an amazing fighter. And I just can't wait for him to get back on the stage because he belongs here. And once he gets here, he's not going to leave.
You know, you've been training with Ignacio and Horatio and Jair. How much would you say that you have this now like Latino, Mexican striking in your own style?
Yeah, like you said, they're all creative guys. They're amazing guys. They're all like some of the best strikers I've ever gone with. So they're helping me evolve my game. They're helping me change and be more creative with my type of striking and like even with their way of thinking. It's amazing to have those guys around me, and like they're all like young guys who've been training since they were 5 years old. So they've been in the sport for a while and they understand the way the body moves with striking and things like that. So it's been like a great room of knowledge with all those guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Did your dad not go to your fights for a reason? He just not like to watch you fight?
My dad is literally, he had his own business, so like he would work 13, 14-hour shifts. So like he was never able to leave. He's one of those guys, old school. You don't need a vacation. Are you serious? I'm not taking a day off. What's wrong with you? So now like his store got closed down. So like he's been at home and he's been chilling. So now it's finally like, it's worth it now.
Damian, it's been like 15 months since we've seen you fight, and it's been a kind of a crazy 15 months, right? I mean, what has life been like for you? I mean, were you thinking about fighting at all, or did you decide to kind of stay away during this whole crazy pandemic time?
No, I was thinking about fighting all the time. You know, that's what I do. That's what I love. But the world was crazy, like you said. I remember when I finished with Ben, I said, okay, I have a couple more fights. Then 2020 will be, you know, the end of my career, and will be nice and this and that. And then I get into Brazil and I fight in Brasilia. The first event without a crowd was pretty awkward. And I was telling the other interviews that when you always been fighting all your life with crowds, since the time I was fighting jiu-jitsu, you know, there is always crowds, especially the wars, big crowds. You kind of take for granted the fans, and you think it's nice, but you know, I'm too focused on what I'm doing that I'm gonna enjoy after. But once you fight without crowd, you understand the importance of the energy or wherever you believe to the show, you know, and the fans are part of the show. So for me, it's very important, and I'm very glad to fight for a big crowd again.
Very nice. I know, like during this time away, you got your 5th degree black belt, right? And you've been telling the history of jiu-jitsu. I mean, have you during this time been focused like more on jiu-jitsu than MMA?
Did you follow that?
Yeah.
I'm still doing. Yeah, I did 5 episodes. I want to do more. It's very nice, you know. I'm very excited to do that, and I've been focused on the jiu-jitsu history, but of course training. I've been focused on MMA, you know, in jiu-jitsu for MMA like I always do, and it doesn't change. And that's actually what I love very much, how to apply jiu-jitsu inside the octagon, and that's what interests me most. And it's funny because it's a so new sport that every camp I found out some stuff, you know, some new stuff. Even people, they love when I say, but even some details from the back attacks and how to choke, you know, I've been evolving a lot the last year. So, and you know, the cage stuff and things against the cage. So it's very interesting for me. And of course, when you don't have a fight coming up, you kind of evolve in this certain pace. But when you have a fight coming up, a camp, then, you know, you evolve much faster.
So to me, it felt like you were trying to like wind your MMA career down, like you felt like you were in. But it sounds like you're just as passionate about it now as ever. So I mean, are we at the end of your fighting career, or do you think there's still a future ahead?
Yeah, this will depend on Saturday. Of course, I'm near the end and can be the last fight. But you know what? I've been performing so well in training camp, and I've been feeling so well that I could do one more or a couple more. Most likely one more after that. But of course, it depends because you perform as well in the training camp, and sometimes, you know, you cannot translate to the octagon. So if I can translate well, and of course UFC, and then they want me to do one more fight, I would do. If not, then, you know, would be the last one. I don't pretend to fight in another organization. I want to end up in the UFC. But of course, I want to do one or a couple fights, jiu-jitsu fights after that. And at my sponsor Spider championship. But who knows, you know, let's see Saturday what's going to happen.
All right, so was it important then for you to wait to have a crowd because it could be your last performance? Was that mattered to you?
Yeah, of course. You know what? I was watching, like I saw Rogério fought in Abu Dhabi, right, with Mauricio. Eduardo was there, my manager, and that was last Rogério's Nogueira fight. Was so, for me, it was sad that he did his last fight without a crowd, and not just him, but other fighters too. And I was, I don't want that for me. You know, I don't want to end up my career without a crowd. It would be so sad, at least in my opinion. And thanks God, you know, the events just come back to the normal, are coming back slowly, and that's, you know, that's why I'm here. I'm very glad for that.
Nice. What do you think about the matchup? I mean, obviously anybody you fight is going to be younger than you, right? They're going to be probably a little less accomplished. But, so what do you think about Belal as an opponent?
He's a great upcoming guy. He's evolving for sure. And although his background is wrestling, that's at least as far as I know, he started with wrestling. He's a good wrestler. He used the wrestling. But in the late years, he been striking much more, and he believes and he trusts in his striking abilities. So he's, you know, like every top 15 guy, he's a pretty tough fighter. It's not an easy fight. But, you know, I've been in this situation so many times in my life, you know, almost 14 years in the UFC. In October, it will be 14 years since I did my first UFC fight. But I did close the contract, I think around June, July. I don't remember. Well, I need to check my emails. But so it's 14 years, and it's so great to be in this organization for 14 years.
Yeah. Last thing for me, hopefully it's not your last fight, but if for any reason it is, how do you want people to remember you, to talk about you? What do you want people to say about you and your legacy and your career?
You know, I'm very happy when I hear from my peers, you know, the other fighters, that they admire me, like Charles now, he just won the championship, and he said in Brazil, oh, I think Damian is still the best one in Jiu-Jitsu. That makes me so happy because, you know, to get recognized by your peers, it's great. But for the fans, I want them to remember me about, of course, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and everything that I represent behind that name of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and everything that this represent. And my posture, you know, as a martial artist, and I think, yeah, that's it.
Damian, right here. Was Belal the only name they offered you, or there are other fights that they came to you with during the pandemic?
There was they offered Chimaev before, but that was end of the year. So Eduardo, my manager, was talk with them, but we didn't get to close the contract. And after that, he closed the contract to fight. No, we didn't close. But then he fought. He was closing to fight Edwards. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he had the COVID and stuff. So, and then they offer also Vicente Luque, but then I don't know why we didn't close to. They offer, but then they decide put him against Woodley, and so there was a fight that I was up for, but they offer, and then put him against Woodley, and then finally they offer Belal, and then we got it.
With the Chimaev, were you interested in the Chimaev fight? Because then I think he had already had a fight booked, and Dana said he's going to fight you next. So he fights this guy, and then he fights you.
And he in that time was interesting because he was with his hype was really high, but then Eduardo started negotiation, didn't happen. But right now, I don't think about that because I'm more about, doing this fight and see if I'm going to stop or not and this kind of thing.
And all these names that you mentioned, they're all young men in their primes of their career. You obviously, like you said, you might have 1 or 2 more fights left. So do you like getting all these young names offered to you, or do you want to fight the other veterans?
No, because everybody's younger than me now, like you said. So I don't care. I don't care because my thermometer, my parameter, can I say that, is how I'm training. And of course I'm training with everybody younger than me, 20-something, 30s. I know I keep the pace with this guy, I keep going. So if I don't feel well, I'm never gonna come here just because I wanna make, the money. I don't care about that, I never care about that. Actually my first fight, in 1996, that is not even in Sherdog, the fight that is in the documentary Combate did in Brazil, at ufcdocs.com.br. I paid to fight. I paid like, 30 reais at the time. It's like $10, something like that at the time, dollars. So, and I paid so many jiu-jitsu fights to fight in the championship, so that I'm not here for the money. The money is great, and it's so nice to do something that you love. I used to say, in Brazil, we don't make too much money, but we're having fun. And now I can say I make money and having fun, so it's perfect word.
Dan Hardy actually did an interview, and he said he would like to see like a masters division in MMA where for like people 35 and older.
Who said?
Dan Hardy.
Okay.
So like him and Matt Brown and Carl Stein could all fight. Would you like to see a masters division in MMA?
I don't know. It would be nice, of course, but I like to fight, everyone. I don't like to be separated by age, because if I'm feeling that I'm, doing well, I can do with anyone. And in the fight sport, if you see the history of fight sports, there was many, like I was studying the history of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Jiu-Jitsu, and when the Japanese came and even the American catch wrestlers here, they were fighting sometimes till 50-something years old. Of course, it was different time, but also there was no time limit. There was crazy rules, and people were fighting. And you can see like old boxers fighting, like George Foreman, when he won the world title. So it's all about how you're feeling. And I think our society, of course, is very obsessed with age. So every time, I did journalism degree, I did journalism in college. And every time you write about somebody, you put the age, after. And everybody just talk about that, and it's interesting, but I think it makes different, but what really makes different is how you're feeling. So if you're feeling, and I'm not lying, because some people say, some people, they just lie. No, I'm feeling great, and they feel like shit, and because they are older and stuff. But I'm pretty sincere. Of course, fight is a fight. I don't know how I'm going to perform, but at training, I'm feeling great. I don't have any injuries. So that's what matters for me.
Damian, right here.
Uh-huh.
Right here. Jim Grieshaber, excuse me. Just your losses that you've had recently, no one wants to leave anything on the table, but the guys that you're losing to are champions and the last 2 #1 contenders, and then you have the win over Jorge Masvidal too. So you're performing so well. You talked about how you're training. What is it that you're doing, to feel so good at an older age, and what are you doing differently than what you did when you were younger to get ready for a fight?
Yeah, what I think is when you're getting older, you need to make less mistakes. I think for everybody, not just for me as a fighter, but for everybody in this room, if you're getting older, you get to make less mistakes to have a good life. What I mean is, you need to pay a little bit more attention to what you eat, not just when you're fighting, but every day. You need to pay a little bit more attention in how you sleep, not during the training camp, but every day. Little more attention in what you put in, the exercise you do, what you put inside your mind, the mental part. So, and this must be something like an everyday life, a way of life, or a lifestyle, not just for a camp. And that's where I understand. Before, let's say I would, eat well when I was in camp, and then after camp I was just eat all the shit that I want. And now I keep, I do eat bad stuff, but let's say I do eat bad stuff one night, the next day, sometimes I fasting, or I do eat bad stuff one day, the other day I will be very clean. So it's more learn how to balance and don't make those mistakes. It's pretty much the basic things that people don't pay attention, like sleeping, eating, and mental health, and these kind of things that we need to be aware. And this will help. Of course, my style of fighting helps because I'm not a brawler, and that's I think this helps.
What about that mentality, the mindset that you talked about? Can you go a little bit more into detail, some of the things you do to stay sharp mentally and to stay focused on what you're doing?
As the time goes by, you learn how to don't get in some tricks that your mind can play on you. Like, for instance, this thing about last fight. If I was focused on that this week, okay, or during the camp, this can be my last fight. For sure, this will gonna interfere in my performance because I never been in this spot before. That could be the last fight. So what I do is every time I have this kind of thoughts, I try to understand that this is really what it is. It's just another fight. Because we never know what's gonna happen. Life is crazy. I remember I was leaving the fight when I just won against Gunnar Nelson in Vegas and go to my locker room to watch Aldo's fight against McGregor. And I remember going through the corridor, and then Michael Bisping was there. I stopped to talk to him. Man, I see his eye, and his eye was pretty hurt. He couldn't move well, one of his eyes. And then I remember talking to Eduardo. We came back to the locker room. We are happy, but I was talking to Eduardo. I said, man, how he keep fighting? It's crazy. And I think he will end up. He's finishing his career soon. And then after a couple months after that, he won the title. So life is so crazy that you cannot put something in your mind that you don't have control. I don't have control if this is going to be or not my last fight. So in the end of the day, it's another fight with a great opponent, tough opponent, and I need to be focused on that. So that's one thing, answering your question, that I think, I'm paying more attention. It's like, don't let your thoughts take you out of the path.
And last one for me. Athletes talk all the time about how the game or the sport slows down as you get older. Mm-hmm. So what you lose physically, you make up for mentally. Mm-hmm. How has that been for you?
I think I've been growing mentally, but I think physically, there is just one thing that I feel. It's nothing like, I don't feel slower, I don't feel with less gas or this kind of thing. What I feel that is very interesting, I remember Murilo Bustamante, who was a UFC champion too, he told me one time, he said, Damian, when you get older, what you feel, and I was like 30 years old or something, or even less, your injuries takes more time to heal. That's what I feel. And exactly what I feel nowadays. I remember I was like Wolverine before, I get some hit and I get some bruise or something. In one day it was gone. I was impressed at that time how far. And nowadays, man, sometimes I get something little thing, like I get a tendonitis on my elbow last year and took like 3 months to recover. I said, shit, what's happening? Thank you.
Damian, back here. You fought such an incredible list of opponents throughout your career. I'm just curious if there's somebody that stands out to you as maybe the toughest out of all these great fighters you've fought.
Man, that's a really, really tough question. I think the toughest fight that I had was Anderson, because he was pretty much in his prime, and I was not ready for that fight. I wasn't too young, but I was like 31, 32, but I was young for the sport. I didn't have too much experience, and the weight division was not the best for me. He was pretty big. He was in his prime. Actually, he was supposed to fight Chael, and then Chael couldn't fight. Then they offered this fight to Vitor. Vitor couldn't fight, so it ended up in me. And you never say no to a title fight. So I said, okay, let's go. But for sure was not the timing. And it was pretty tough. And the fight, when the fight started, I realized it was a different animal. I never had so much problem with distance in the first couple rounds. I couldn't understand the distance because he's not just, long and tall. He managed, that's his strength, he managed the distance so well. And his jab was so tough. I never got something like that. So for the first time in my life, in that time, I was afraid to be knocked out. Because I've been knocked out 2 times in my life, right? But it was out of the blue. I was fighting, boom, and it was not even like a classical knockout. It was more like a knockdown because I hit the ground and I woke up right away. But in that fight, I was, maybe it's a matter of time. For the first time, I was afraid to be knocked out. And then fight keep going, and then I said, okay, it doesn't. I go to between some rounds, I blow my nose and my eyes, because you cannot blow your nose. But I'm not boxer. I didn't know that. They didn't know that at that time. So just close my eyes. My eyes is this size. I cannot watch. I cannot see from one eye. Then I said, okay, it doesn't matter. He's beating me. I just gonna give my head to him, and if he wanna beat, he will beat. But at least I'm gonna, I change my stance to trying to just avoid with the distance to more like aggressive, more, like Mike Tyson style, to go forward. And then when I did that, he was kind of afraid to jab because he said, okay, this guy, he wants to take me down. He knew he was winning. So the first thing I did, I faked that I was going to the leg, and I came back with a hook, and I really landed that hook. I think that it was today he would go down, but in that time he had a pretty tough chin. I remember my hand I feel my hand, I felt my hand, I said, my God, and then I run into him, try to knee or some crazy stuff. Then he recovered, I land one more good one, and then after that the fight started to come back, I remember. And I remember his corner said that what they said after me, Anderson, you got to jab, you got to do this. And I said, I'm not finding the distance anymore. And that's interesting because that's the same feeling I had at the beginning of the fight. And then they said the corner, after 3rd round or something, he said between the rounds, I'm not finding the distance. And that fight was important for me because it proved that I could, last and resist with that guy, even in a very bad situation. It's not that, I was able to take him down and use my game. I was all the time in his game. And I think a lot of people start to respect me after that. And I think that fight, even there was a loss, put me in a different spot in the eyes of everybody, the media, the fans, and the coaches and the fighters, everybody.
How do you think he's going to do in his boxing match?
It depends, Anderson, he's still great. He's a genius on his stand-up game. But I don't know how he's doing, how he's training, because it doesn't matter how good you are. If you're not in, training in a good shape, I don't know, I'm not saying that's the case, but if you're going there just for the money, it's very likely that I don't think that's a reason that's going to make you be sharp. But if he's going there for the challenge and he's training well, he's not injured, then I think he can do. Well, who is fighting? Roy Jones?
Julio Cesar Chavez.
Julio Cesar Chavez, yeah. It's a tough one,
All right, best of luck, Damian. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good. Guys, thank you very much. I see you on Saturday.